What's going on, guys? It is me, Lord Sci-Fi, and today we are on Chapter 2, Revenge of the Sith novel. This is Dooku. We have been on Chapter 2 for a while. We're going to start at page 51. And, guys, before we get going, I want to tell you guys I have 3 new books coming in. We have, for Star Wars books, but I also have a new one that's already came in, but I had 4 books. So, we got Star Wars The Labyrinth of Evil, and we got, Star Wars Episode 1, the novelization, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones novelization, and Star Wars Brotherhood. Those are all of the books so far. Let's start now. Numbers, every sentient begin. He cannot include in the first. There is no third category. Someday there may not be even a second. Being considered a threat by Count Dooku is a death sentence. A death sentence he plans to pronounce, for example, on his current allies, the heads of the aforementioned Trade Federation, Intergalactic Banking Clan, Techno Union, and Corporate Alliance, and Geonosian Weaponeers. Treachery is the way of the Sith. Count Dooku watched with clinical distaste as the blue scanned images of Kenobi and Skywalker engaged in a preposterous farce chase, pursued by destroyer droids and into and out of turbolift pods that shot upward and downward and even sideways. It will be, he said slowly, meditatively, as though he spoke only to himself, and an embarrassment to be captured by him. The voice that answered him was so familiar that sometimes his very thoughts spoke in it, instead of in his own. In embarrassment, you could survive, Lord Tyrannus. After all, he's the greatest Jedi alive, is he not? And have we not ensured that all of the galaxy shares this opinion? Quite so, my master, quite so. Again, Dooku sighed. Today he felt every hour of his 83 years. It is fatiguing to play the villain for so long, master. I find myself looking forward to an honorable captivity. Alright, guys, I'm sorry. I forgot to do something real quick, and I'll be right there. So. Sorry about that, guys. We'll continue reading. If you guys like the voices I do, I just like doing voices for the characters. A captivity that would allow him to sit out the rest of the war in comfort. A captivity that would allow him to forswear his former allegiances when he would conveniently appear to finally discover the true extent of the separatist crimes against civilization, and bind himself to the new government with his reputation for integrity and idealism fully intact. The new government had been their star of destiny for these many years. A government clean, pure, direct, none of the messy scramble for the favor of ignorant rabble and subhuman creatures that would made up the republic he so despised. The government he would serve would be authority personified, human authority. It was no accident that the primary powers of the Confederacy of Independent Systems were Neimoidian, Skakoan, Quarren, Aqualish, Moon, Gotham, Cymertherian, and Korrivar and Geonosian. At war's end, the aliens would be crushed, stripped of all they possessed, and their systems and their wealth would be given into the hands of the only beings who could be trusted with them, human beings. Dooku would serve an empire of man, and he would serve it as only he could. As he was born to, he would smash the Jedi Order to create it anew. Now, not shackled by the corrupt, narcissistic, shabby little beings who call themselves politicians, but free to bring true authority and true peace to a galaxy that so badly needed both. An order that would not negotiate, would not meditate, an order that would enforce. The survivors of the Jedi Order would become the Sith army, the fist of the Empire, and that fist would become a power beyond any Jedi's darkest dreams. The Jedi were not the only users of the Force in the galaxy, from Hades to Harun Kal, from Kifu to Dathomir. Powerful, Force-capable humans and near-humans had long refused to surrender their children to lifelong bound servitude in the Jedi Order. They would not refuse this. They would not have the choice. Dooku frowned at the hollow image. Kenobi and Skywalker were going through more low comedy business with another Spocky turbo lift, possibly Grievous having some fun with the shaft controls while battle droids haplessly pursued. Really, it was also undignified. May I suggest, Master, that we give Kenobi one last chance. The support of a Jedi of his integrity would be invaluable in establishing the political legitimacy of our empire. Yes, Kenobi. His master's voice went silken. You have long been interested in Kenobi, haven't you? Of course, Master. His master was my Padawan. In a sense, he's practically my grandson. He is too old, too indoctrinated, irretrievably poisoned by Jedi fables. We established that on Geonosis, do we not? In his mind, he serves the Force itself. Reality is nothing in the face of such conviction. Dooku sighed. He supposed to have no difficulty with this, having ordered the Jedi Master's death once already. True enough, I suppose how fortunate we are that I labored under any such illusions. Kenobi must die today at your hand. His death may be the code key of the final lock that will seal Skywalker to us forever. Dooku understood. Not only would the death of his mentor tip Skywalker's already unstable emotional balance down the darkest of slopes, but it would also remove the greatest obstacle to Skywalker's successful conversion. As long as Kenobi was alive, Skywalker would never be securely in the camp of the Sith. Kenobi's unshakable faith, the values of the Jedi, would keep the Jedi blindfold on Skywalker's eyes and the Jedi shackles on the young man's true power. Still, though, Dooku had some reservations. This had all come about too quickly. As Sidious thought through all the implications of this operation. But I must ask, my master, is Skywalker truly the man we want? He is powerful, potentially more powerful than even myself. Which is precisely, Dooku said meditatively, why it might be best if I were to kill him instead. Are you so certain that you can? Please, of what use is power unstructured by discipline? The boy is as much a danger to himself as he is to his enemies. And that mechanical arm, Dooku's lip curled with cultivated distaste. Revolting. That is true. Even though he's the one who cut his arm off, was because he was told by Palpatine to do that. Was told to do that by Palpatine, and I know, which I'm pretty sure he did. But even though he didn't, he hated that. He said that in Dooku's mind, he thought that it made him weaker and made him partially clone, and he was made fun of him. Then perhaps you should have spared his real arm. A gentleman would have learned to fight one-handed. Dooku flicked a dismissive wave. He's no longer entirely human. With Grievous, the use of these biodroid devices is almost forgivable. He was such a disgusting creature already that his mechanical parts are clearly an improvement, but a blend of droid and human. Appalling the depths of bad taste. How are we to justify associating with him? How fortunate I am. The silken his master's voice softened further. To have an apprentice who feels it is appropriate to lecture me. Dooku lifted an eyebrow. I have overstepped, my master. He said with his customary grace. I am only observing, not arguing, not at all. Skywalker's arm makes him, for our purposes, even better. It is a permanent symbol of the sacrifices he has made in the name of peace and justice. It is a badge of heroism that he must publicly wear for the rest of his life. No one can ever look at him and doubt his honor, his courage, his integrity. He is perfect, just as he is perfect. The only question that remains is whether he is capable of transcending the artificial limitations of his Jedi indoctrination, and that, my Lord Count, is precisely what today's operation is designed to discover. Dooku could not argue. Not only had the Dark Lord introduced Dooku to realms of power beyond his most spectacular fantasies, but Sidious was also a political manipulator so subtle that his abilities might be considered to dwarf even the power of the dark side itself. It was said that whenever the Force closes a hatch, it opens a viewport, and every viewport that had so much as crackled in his past 13 standard years, he found a Dark Lord of the Sith already at the rim, peering in, calculating how to best slip through. Improving upon his master's plan was near to impossible. His own idea of substituting Kenobi for Skywalker, he had to admit, was only the product of a certain misplaced sentimentality. Skywalker was almost certainly the man for the job. He should be. Darth Sidious had spent a considerable number of years making him so. Today's test would remove the almost. He had no doubt that Skywalker would fall. Dooku understood that this was more than a test for Skywalker. Though Sidious had never said so directly, Dooku was certain that he himself was being tested as well. Success today would show his master that he was worthy of the mantle of mastery himself. By the end of the coming battle, he would have initiated Skywalker into the manifold glories of the dark side, just as Sidious has initiated him. He gave no thought to failure. Why should he? But forgive me, my master, but Kenobi. But forgive me, my master. But Kenobi has fallen to my blade. Are you certain Skywalker will ever accept my orders? You must admit that his biography offers a little confidence that he is capable of obedience at all. Skywalker's power brings with it more than mere obedience. It brings creativity and luck. We need never concern ourselves with the sort of instruction that Grievous, for example, requires. Even the blind fools on the Jedi Council see clearly enough to understand this. Even they no longer try to tell him how, they merely tell him what, and he finds a way. He always has. Dooku nodded. For the first time since Sidious had revealed the true subtlety of this masterpiece, Dooku allowed himself to relax enough to imagine the outcome. With his heroic capture of Count Dooku, Anakin Skywalker will become the ultimate hero, the greatest hero in the history of the Republic. Perhaps the Jedi Order itself. The loss of his beloved partner will add just exactly the correct spice of tragedy to give melancholy weight to his every word. When he gives his HoloNet interviews denouncing the Senate's corruption as impeding the war effort, when he so delicately, not to mention reluctantly, insinuates that corruption in the Jedi Order prolonged the war as well. When he announces the creation of a new order of Force-using warriors, he will be the perfect commanding general for the Sith army. Dooku could only shake his head in awe, and to think that only days earlier the Jedi had seemed so close to uncovering, even destroying, all he and his master had worked for. But he should never had feared. His master never lost. He would never lose. He was the definition of unbeatable. How can one defeat an enemy one thinks is a friend? And now, with a single brilliant stroke, his master would turn the Jedi Order back upon itself like an Ithrani or Ouroboros devouring its own tail. This was the day, the hour. The death of Obi-Wan Kenobi would be the death of the Republic. Today would see the birth of the Empire. Tyrannus, are you will? Am I? Dooku realized that his eyes had misted. Yes, my master, I am beyond well. Today, the climax, the grand finale, the culmination of all your decades of work. I find myself somewhat overcome. Composed. composures of Tyrannus, Kenobi, and Skywalker are nearly at the door. Play your part, my apprentice, and the galaxy is ours. Dooku straightened for the first time. He looked his master in the eyes. Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith, sat in the general's chair, shackled to it at the wrist and ankle. Dooku bowed to him. Thank you, Chancellor Palpatine of Naboo, Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, replied. Withdraw, they are here. Alright guys, so that's the end of chapter 2, so I'm going to pause this recording real quick and add another slide here. Alright guys, we are back. Chapter 3. It is called The Way of the Sith. We're going to continue going until we get to page 60, when we read page 60, which we are almost at, and we're going to continue going. The turbo lift's door whished open. Anakin pressed himself against the wall. A litter of saber-sliced droid parts around his feet. Beyond appeared to be a perfectly ordinary lift lobby, pale and bare and empty. Made it at last. Anakin's whole body hummed to the tune of his blue hot blade. Anakin. Obi-Wan stood against the opposite wall. He looked calm and away. Anakin could barely understand. He gave a significant stare down at the lightsaber in Anakin's hand. Anakin, rescue. Anakin, rescue, he said softly. No mayhem. Anakin kept his weapon right where it was. And Dooku? Once the Chancellor is safe, Obi-Wan said with a ghost of smile. We could blow up the ship. Anakin's mechanical fingers tightened as the grip of his lightsaber creaked. I'd rather do it by hand. Obi-Wan slipped cautiously through the turbo lift door. Nothing shot at him. He beckoned. I know this is difficult for you, Anakin. I know it's personal for you on many levels. You must take extra care to be mindful of your training here, and not only your combat training. Heat rose on Anakin's cheeks. I am not your Padawan anymore, he snarled inside his head. But that was adrenaline talking. He bit back the words and said, Going to let you down, Master. More chances of Palpatine. I've no doubt of that. Just remember that Dooku is no mere dark Jedi like that venturous woman. He is a Lord of the Sith. The jaws of this trap are about to snap shut, and there may be danger here, but beyond the merely physical. Yes, Anakin let his blade shrink away and moved past Obi-Wan into the turbolift lobby. Distant concussions boomed throughout the ship, and the floor rocked like a raft on a river in flood he barely noticed. There has been so much what he's done, not just as a Jedi, but to the galaxy. Anakin, Obi-Wan began warningly. Don't worry, I'm not angry. I am not looking for revenge. He lifted his lightsaber. I'm just looking forward to ending it. Anticipation is distraction, I know, and I know that hope is hollow as fear. Anakin let himself smile just a bit, and I know everything else you're dying to tell me right now. Obi-Wan's slight rueful bow of acknowledgement was as affectionate as a hug. I suppose at one point I will eventually have to stop trying to train you. Anakin's smile broadened toward a soft chuckle. I think that's the first time you've ever admitted it. They stopped to the general's quarters, a huge oval of opalescent iridite, chased with gold. Anakin stared at his ghostly almost reflection while he reached into the room beyond with the Force, and let the Force reach him. I'm ready, Master. I know you are. They stood a moment side by side. Anakin didn't look at him. He stared into the door, through the door, searching in its shimmering depths for a hint of unguessable future. He couldn't imagine not being at war. Anakin. Obi-Wan's voice had gone soft, and his hand was warm on Anakin's arm. There's no other Jedi I would rather have at my side right now. No other man. Anakin turned and found within Obi-Wan's eyes the depth of feeling he had only rarely glimpsed in all their years together, and the pure, uncomplicated love that rose up within him, then felt like a promise for the Force itself. Wouldn't have it any other way, master, I believe. His one-time master said with a gently humorous look of astonishment at the words coming out of his mouth that you should get used to calling me Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan? Anakin said, let's go get the Chancellor. Yes, Obi-Wan said, let's. Inside a turbolift pod, Dooku watched the hologramic images of Kenobi and Skywalker cautiously pick their way down the curving stairs from the entrance balcony to the main level of the general's quarters, moving slowly to stay braced against the pitching of the cruiser. The ship shuddered and bucked with multiple torpedo bursts, and the lights went out again. Lighting was always the first to fail as power was diverted from the life support to damage control. Well, we are done reading 10 pages of this, and I want to say that this is one of the best Star Wars books I've read so far. And chapter 3 started got really good. I'm sorry I took a break from reading this book. I just really wanted to read the Obi-Wan comic to kind of get more into depth and see more about Obi-Wan. I wanted to get that one over with, and we will read tomorrow. I think we're gonna read War of the Bounty Hunters. We could do that today, so I can have 2 videos done. But that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next video. Peace.